Hello, hello. Welcome to Smart Social Secrets with Cami Hoyza. I am so happy to see you today. I hope everyone's doing great. And I'm really excited about our conversation today. So, if you are here, make sure you let me know. I have the comments open. I would love to hear from you today because I want to hear your ideas as well. I want to share some non obvious things I've been thinking about when it comes to social media and doing and doing really well with standing out. Like, how do we get the attention of people on social media right now? Because everything I've been hearing about it is all about the algorithms and how to hack the algorithms, and there's a couple of other things, but I want to talk about something that's a little bit more non-obvious. And what really got me thinking about this was I'm going to pull up the article name here so I can tell you. And by the way, the article link that everything I'm talking about today, I've put it in the caption of this video. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you're following me on YouTube or anywhere else, make sure you've followed me, you like this, you share it out, like doesn't matter which platform. This kind of information is really important for those of us who are looking to get to get noticed on social media and figure out how to do that. So right now, of course, there's so much going on with AI and how people are using AI. And unfortunately, what that means is there's a lot of sameness out there. There's just a lot of content that's being created. And there's a lot of discussion about people and how you can create content and what you can do. There was a couple of things that I saw a few weeks ago from my friend Frank Prendergast. I'll say that right. And he shared a really interesting uh, our video. I don't think it was a video. I think it was just a still screen of Amazon. And on Amazon, there was all of these products that were being put onto Amazon, and basically it said that the AI would not do that for them. So people are putting like content on autopilot. It's messing it up. It's making it really hard and cluttering up the space even more than it already is. And so I was reading this article written by her name is Renae Gregoire. I hope I said that right, Renae, about the 5 trust barriers ruining your B2B marketing content. So the link for that is in the caption, as I said. And what was really interesting is she had a couple of things she said, and then I'm going to tell you mine, but hers were generic and non-specific content. That is really, really a bad thing because a lot of people are putting things out there that are so shallow. They're just like, like skin deep. They don't go very deep. They don't really solve a problem. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Same old repetitive content. So just taking the same content, regurgitating it and then putting it back out again. And then the next thing she talked about was gated content, which we all need in order to build our brands. And that gated content, she had a study that she talked about that 71% of B2B technology buyers are disappointed with the value of the gated content that they download. That's bad. So if people are giving you their email, they're downloading something and they're expecting a specific solution, and then all you give them is like sort of a thinly veiled sales pitch, that is not working. And in fact, it's making your brand diluted and it's giving you a bad name with people. So I think that's really true too. The next thing was content with stale data and outdated information. So, like, if you're going to put together an article, or a piece of content, make sure you're using data that's closer to up to date. That's really important. And then not just taking the same things and rehashing them. And then content that promises insight, but instead is a sales pitch. I just mentioned that in the gated content. When it's only a sales pitch, that's really annoying. So what I've really hated, I'll just say this, I've really hated when I download something because I want to read it, I want to get to know the person, I want to see how they think. And then immediately they pitch me. Like, they'll pitch me on a DM or they'll pitch me somewhere like that. That to me has been a real problem. So I don't like that, like where they reach out to you right away or call you. I've had that happen too. So, you'll download a white paper and then they'll actually do an outbound call to you at that moment. Like, you download it and you get a phone call. Cut it out. Cut it out. I hate this stuff. So anyway, I don't know if you hate that kind of thing. Let me know in the comments what you hate as far as how people are pitching you, because I would like to know how you are getting pitched and if you like that in the content you are. And if you have somebody who pitched you in a really good way, add that too. Let's do the positive as well as the negative. But I would say that whenever you're first reaching out to people and you're trying to get them to work with you, or you think that you could help them, you want them to know you, like you, and trust you. And I know everybody says that, so I don't want to say the same regurgitated material. But that is true. You want to have a relationship of sorts with that person, not a true relationship, but a relationship where they know that what you say is something that's going to help them. So there you go. So Renae recommends these anecdotes: storytelling, fresh insights and data, deep dive with experts, which I really like that too, getting somebody on with you that is an expert and going deeper, and problem solving toolkits. One of the biggest problems is just thinking that you're an expert in something because you've done it, like, once, or a little bit about it. I don't know about you, but that's, as a public relations professional for all these years, many times people would come to me and say, "Hey, I know how to do public relations." And they didn't know the beginnings of all of the things that you had to put in to make it happen. So I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but let me know. Um, I see you, Bart, here. So Bart is here, and I would not like really feel great if, even though you go to all of the shows and you do all of the airplane stuff, he does airplanes, automobiles, and transportation, race cars. So I would not necessarily feel comfortable if you told me that you were piloting the plane, just because you've attended a lot of conferences, right? So again, like, having somebody come in to help you with your content, or inviting them in, that's actually what's great about something like a podcast, because you can invite a guest on and go deep with that guest. And even if you have some knowledge, it makes it so much more rich. And so think about that for B2B content as well. Definitely, if you have an organization, you may think, you may have a subject matter expert in your staff, but if you don't, go outside of your staff, go somewhere else. Or if they don't give you that person to help you, that happens a lot too. Anyway, so that being said, I want to share the 4 things that I sort of came up with that I feel are things that I would do to stand out on social media right now. And I'm going to have to share my screen to do that. So hold on a second. Let me pull this up for you. Here they are. I'm just going to go with all of them immediately, and we'll talk through them. So this is the first one: is to be non-Googleable, meaning you don't want to have the information you're putting out there being just the first 10 results on Google, but you've rehashed it. A lot of people do that because it gives them good SEO results, because they're trying to compete with those top articles. But that is the problem. And I'll tell you how I kind of learned this lesson the hard way. So I'll tell you a story about something I did that was not, I'm not proud of it. So anyway, I wrote my first draft of my chapter for the most amazing marketing book ever for Mark Schaefer. Here, I've got to make myself bigger so I can tell you about this. So we were getting ready to write the book, and there's 36 authors, and we all had a prompt. We were told exactly, like, the sort of the way that it needed to be written. It was going to be written in tips format. And Mark asked us to get our chapters in. So I have been doing social media strategy for years. I have a very tried and true method for getting results with my strategy. So I basically wrote out my strategy, and I did some things around that, and I sent it back to him. And I did it pretty quick. And he sent me back a message that basically said, "I could Google all of this information. Give me something I've never heard before." I have to admit, that day I was stumped. It really, like, I was like, I took the feedback well, because I listen to my mentors, and hopefully you do too. But I took the feedback well, but what it did is it made me get stuck. So I just had a really hard time, like, what am I going to write about? So I thought about it and thought about it, walked. It took me a couple of weeks to get unstuck and to come up with what I knew was going to be something that was a little bit more revolutionary, interesting. So I did put a link to the book. If you don't have our book, The Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever, I would love it if you grabbed that and read this. But that was my wake up call with this, is that we can't just keep falling back on what we know, the tried, the true, because people, and you can definitely use those things, but you need to be thinking about things in fresh and interesting ways, and package them in ways that make people stand up and take notice. So we're talking about how to get noticed here. And that's really part of that. I am never going to be a TikTok dancer. I mean, I've done a few, but badly. So I would just say I'm never going to be really super entertaining. That's just probably not my shtick. I'm more of educational girl. But like, how can I make that interesting and whatever? So that's the first thing is that I felt like I pretty much had failed Mark Schaefer at that moment, and he was really patient with me. And I sent him back something that eventually he did definitely approve of. And then we went through editing with that as well. So, there's always a refining part of this too, is just thinking about things, reading things from other people. One of the things I do a lot is for to be non-Googleable is that I am constantly educating myself. So, also one of the things that made me kind of feel like I should do this is that a couple of days ago, I was watching a podcast about, or I was watching a YouTube podcast that's also a podcast about health and wellness. I'm really kind of into that right now. And I was listening to them talk about these kinds of things that they're doing for health. And one of them that is everybody always says, calories in, calories out. That's been a thing for a long time. And so there was a doctor on that was really refreshing. And he was saying, we just, as doctors, we don't treat people who are overweight very well in our clinics. And it made me really just realize like nobody ever really says that. They say, you should get on this diet or do this thing or do that thing, but they don't take like sort of responsibility. Like, oh, we've kind of made a food environment that's really hard for people. Anyway, my point is it was just a different refreshing spin. I mean, he was saying the same thing, but it was a spin and it was refreshing. And so I'm always watching other people as they're talking about these things and thinking about that. Also, I'm very into mindset and your brain and things like that. And so I've done a lot of research around that and listened to a lot of blogs, podcasts, read a lot of books. And so, you can see the connections that go between what you do and what you read. So reading outside of your niche is also really great. All right, so that's being non-Googleable. How do you do that in such a way that people have an insight when they hear you, that they think about something differently when they hear you? I'm not always great at it, but I try. So that's really what I'm aiming for. Um, so that being said, the second thing I have here is to be a story collector. So different than storytelling, a lot of people say, be a storyteller, be a storyteller. But, you can't just be a storyteller. You can't stand on your little pedestal and just tell these stories and, people get bored. That's for sure. So your stories have to connect to the problem the person is having, which kind of goes with the third point, which I'm about to come to. But that is that you need to be collecting your stories and putting them in some sort of format. So, what I ask my students to do in Smart Social Mastery and also my clients to do is to inventory their stories. So your stories should match to a problem. So if somebody tells me a really cool story about a problem they solved, I ask them to please put it into their vault. Basically, their story vault is what I like to call it. So you put it into your story vault, and then that has your story. And then in another column, you have what problem it solves. And that way you have this really good amount of back end research of stories that you can use in different kinds of content, like live streams or ads or even in content that you're doing in to teach somebody. So just think about that. Like think about collecting your stories and putting them in a way that it's easy to sort them and get to them and refine them. Cool. So that's collecting, being a story collector. And by the way, you can collect stories from your clients and from your customers as well. And those are called usually testimonials, but how powerful would they be if they were more like stories, not like a something about how great you are, but more about what the thing that you taught them helped them to do better. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for these stories. So there you go. So then I say really solve the problem. So a lot of people say solve problems, but the problem with solving problems is that it's really broad, right? So how do you know what people's problems are? And I'll tell you how you know. You create and you foster a community of people that you're helping, and then they will share with you what their problems are on the regular. So you don't have to go out and beg for understanding or guess, even worse yet. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. I have ways that where you talk to them directly. I have ways that you can kind of go into different communities and observe, but in the end of the day, you need to really listen to your clients and hear what their problems are. And we tend to want to just spray it out to too big of an audience. Like we're going to try to help everybody in this space, in the technology space. That's too big. You need to help, specific people inside of that. So you can make different messages for different groups if you need to. That's really the thing, is solving a problem. And that also will help with that gated problem. I told you that 2023 Trust in Marketing Index survey found that 71% of B2B technology buyers are disappointed with the value of gated content. That's B2B technology buyers, but I'm guessing that's a lot more than just them. So let me know. Have you been disappointed in any gated content that you've downloaded, freebies that you've downloaded? I would like to hear about that. All right, cool. So the last thing that I have on here is stand for something. And I think this is so important because, it's not about being political, by the way, unless that's your choice. I mean, that could be your whole thing, is that you're a political person and you do that. I'm not a political person, so I don't do that. But it's about having a clear and distinctive viewpoint. That clear and distinctive viewpoint is so important. Um, it means that people know who you are as a brand, who you are as a person, in my case. But if you're a brand, and I've worked for a lot of them, they can also understand you as a brand if you have that distinctive voice. So I was listening to a podcast by Mark Schaefer, and he was interviewing Jay Acunzo, and they were talking about this and the idea of having your employees be your voice in the marketplace. And I have known a lot of people who've done this. One of the best was Lionel Menchaca. He used to be the lead blogger for Dell, and he was like such a great voice for them. And he's gone on. I would say he was the face of Dell back then, back in the 2008, 7, 8 kind of time period. He went on to work for many more tech companies, and now he works for ForcePoint. It's a data security company, and he still is working on creating attractive content for the brand. I know a lot of brands like kind of hesitate to put a personal brand at the head of their marketing voice because, number one, they could leave at any given time. They could leave, right? And that's always a little scary for a brand. They're like, oh gosh, we're gonna build everything on this brand and this voice, and then they're gonna leave. Number two, they could also do something terrible, right? Oh yeah, Ellen, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't like those either. Those weight loss just thing. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, they can leave, and that can be a problem, or they could do something terrible. That did happen to a friend of mine who hired somebody in, and actually, Jay and Mark Schaefer talk about this person on their podcast. I'm going to leave it to them, but they talk about this person who I knew very well, that they're talking about. That was the head of the brand for Rackspace, and my friend Rob Legess hired him in, and he never said that he regretted that. I can ask Rob if he regretted it, but I don't think so. But in the end of the day, here's the funny thing: you are borrowing off of that brand and that goodwill of people, and people have short memories. I'm going to be honest. We move on, we get through it, but your CEO is the face of a brand, no matter what you want to say. We have those kind of people in the brand already. So I don't know why people are really avoiding making a voice of or a person, a voice of a person, their brand. I know that LinkedIn is doing a good job with this too. So they're bringing in their all these different people on the LinkedIn platform for LinkedIn Learning, and they are drafting off of that goodwill of those experts who are coming in and talking about their area of expertise on LinkedIn Learning. And I also know a lot of people who work for LinkedIn that are also voices for the brand. So there are some brands that are doing this in a fairly good way, I think. And so, I'm wondering how you're going to do that for yourself, for your own brand. Or if you work in a company, how are they thinking about this? And are they allowing their communications or SME type of and that subject matter experts, SME, that's what I mean by that. Are they allowing them to be part of the voice of the brand? So instead of having just, like a one corporate voice, which is so boring, it's so boring. Why don't we have a patchwork of voices? Like, why only one employee voice, even? Like, why not many employee voices? Because guess what? If you have like a vibrant employee voice culture, can you imagine how that's going to attract new people to your brand to come be employees at your brand? Because right now, let's face it, employees are actually really competing for the best voices out there. They really are. I mean, it's really hard right now to get people to come work somewhere and stay there for a long time because guess what? We don't allow them to actually flourish and grow. There's nowhere to go. So, like, why don't we give them this opportunity to live in a safe environment called our brand and also be a voice inside of our brand? So, that is something that I really, really feel strongly about. I know in Smart Social Mastery, which is my online training course, I have Tracy Shannon, who is on my team, and she is very much a voice in my business on that side. She is the community manager and everybody knows who she is. And sometimes she even runs the meetings by herself and probably will do more of that as we go along. So that is what you need to do. You need to actually get those voices and make sure that you are nurturing them and bringing them up into that thing. So definitely go watch or listen to the marketing podcast that I have in the in the caption for this and go listen to Mark and Jay and how they talk about this in depth. Again, I really agree with that way of looking at it. Okay, cool. So that being said, I'm gonna just really quickly pull up the four things so that you can see them and write them and jot them down if you didn't get a chance to do that yet. Whoop, 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 come on. Ugh, my computer's being slow today. So be non-Googleable, be a story collector, really solve a problem, understand the problem, go deep, and then stand for something. Have a voice. I probably should have put that instead, but stand for something, have a voice, have a distinctive voice, and and get your employees to help you with that. Have them help you be that distinctive voice in the marketplace so that you can do it. And guess what? Then you don't have to do a TikTok dance. Then you don't unless you want to. If you're great at dancing, please do. You can pull out your musical instruments or do whatever you want to do to make it interesting. But if you just don't feel like you're super entertaining and that you're like, I can't do this because I'm not entertaining. You don't have to be entertaining. You just have to have a point of view that people can listen to and it makes them think. Even if they don't agree with you, it's so good to have that point of view so that it makes people think. So yeah, I agree, Ellen. So I'm going to put this back up here. So she talked about weight loss freebies, BMI, best diets for your blood type, et cetera. Yeah. I mean, they make you go through this whole quiz and then they just sell you a bunch of supplements at the end, which I mean, some of the supplements are great. I'm using some of the supplements, but if that's your only purpose in that particular transaction, then you're going to over time just irritate people, right? So, yeah, I get with that. And yes, Bart, I'm glad that you're not a pilot right now. I mean, it would be great if you're a pilot, then you could fly everywhere. But I'm not going to go on to a airplane with somebody who just, plays a pilot on the internet. It's very important. I have a friend who's a pilot. He works for JetBlue. We could definitely go with him. He used to take me flying when we were in college. I would go up with him because he was getting his hours, and he would actually let me steer the plane sometimes for a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, you need to take this back, like right now. So it was a little scary. So that's it, guys. I don't really want to go on any further than that. It's just those four things. Let me know if you can think of anything that you want to do. Also, I really highly recommend Mark Schaefer's book, Known, to read if you haven't read it yet. If you are working on your own personal brand, he's got such great development tools inside of that book for you to develop your personal brand. So I highly recommend that as well. And then, yeah, let's have a discussion. Like, how can we stand out? And what are you trying to do to stand out for your brand? And hey, I love to hear tips from everyone. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys soon and have a great day. I hope that you are known for the best person that you are. And the best way to stand out is to be different. All right, talk to you soon. Bye. Uh, there we go.